Hello, let me tell you a story. Every morning in the Serengeti plains of Africa, a lion awakes. And that lion knows that it has to run faster than the slowest antelope that day if it wants to eat. And every morning in the Serengeti plains, an antelope awakes, and that antelope knows that it has to run faster than the slowest lion if it wants to escape. So, whether you are a lion or an antelope, when the sun comes up, you'd better be running. I want to talk to you now about analyzing your competition, and here's the rule. To succeed in business, you must be able to position and sell your product or service against your competitors. All of business is competition from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night. And your ability to clearly define your competitors and then produce and sell your product or service against them is the key to business success. So you start off by analyzing your competition. You almost look upon business like a war, and you analyze your enemy. Who is the enemy? You must be continually seeking ways to be smarter, better, and faster than your competition, because your competitors are continually looking for ways to put you out of business as quickly as they possibly can by taking away your customers, taking away your cash flow, and taking away your profits. And if you're not thinking the same things, then you become a victim of competitive strength and competitive advantage. Well, here's the reason why there's so much competition. It's because customers want the very most for the very least amount of money. Customers are greedy, they're lazy, they're ambitious, they're selfish, they're disloyal. They want the very, very most product or service for the very least amount of money, and they will buy in an instant from the person who they perceive offers that to them. You must be continually thinking of how you can be the person in the customer's mind who offers them more of what they want at that moment. To succeed, you must develop and maintain a competitive advantage. In other words, you must determine what makes your product or service superior. You must decide upon your area of excellence. What we know is that customers always buy what they perceive to be the very best choice under the existing circumstances. Your job must be to position your product or service and show them that it is superior in some critical way that should cause your customer to buy from you rather than from someone else. Especially, you must be absolutely clear about your unique selling proposition. Now, the unique selling proposition is one of the most important concepts in all of marketing. It is something that only your business does, or only you do, that no one else does, that is of value to your customer. The word unique means only one in the whole world. So what is it that your company has, what is it that your products or services offer that make you unique? I'll give you a simple example. The great proliferation of 7-Eleven stores, convenience stores worldwide, is based on convenience. Only one convenience store can be at that location serving the people in that market area. What makes the convenience store unique is its location. Sometimes it's the product offering. Sometimes it's the people who sell. In real estate, for example, in life insurance, the products are available everywhere. What makes the unique selling proposition is the individual who's actually selling it, because there's only that person in the whole world. This can be a great way of your business developing a unique selling proposition because of your people. Entrepreneurship is an unending struggle and competition with other concerns, other businesses, to win customers. And that is to win customers. That means you have to attract customers. You have to lure customers. You have to become more desirable to customers. The only way you get customers is almost like courting them in every way possible. So to succeed, you have to be determined to be the best in your market. Now, this is an important point, and Peter Drucker points it out. He says, even if you are starting your business on a kitchen table, if your goal is not someday to be the best in your business, you will never succeed, because you will set your standards too low to be able to overcome competition in your market. Set a goal to be either number 1 or number 2 in what you do. Now, can you achieve it in a week, a month, a year? Who knows? It may take you several years. Most companies take 5 to 8 years before they hit their stride from a new startup. But Jack Welch transformed General Electric by saying that we'll be either number 1 or number 2 in every one of our businesses, or we will get out of the business. And that should be your job as well. And then the next question you ask is how? What would we have to do to be the best in our business? Continually look for ways to improve your product or service offerings. There is a concept called Kaizen, which comes from Japan, which means continuous betterment. There's another concept which comes from that. It's called Kanai, which means continuous and never-ending improvement. Continuous and never-ending improvement. Every day you should be looking at ways to make your product or service or business better than it was the day before. Now, just like in warfare, your choice of your enemy is going to determine your strategy. In business, your choice of the companies you're going to compete against determines your strategy as well. If you determine you're going to compete against smaller companies, then you have to do certain things in a certain way. If you determine you're going to compete against the industry giants, then you have to offer products and services very differently from if you're going to compete against small companies. So, you've got to define your choice of competitors. Who are you competing against? Now, who is your competitor? Your competitor is anyone who sells a similar product or service to you. In other words, if the customer has a choice, buying from you or buying from someone else, that person is your competitor. Second of all, your competitor is any alternate use of the same money that your product costs. Give you an example. Let's say you're in the restaurant business. You can say that your competitor is every other restaurant. No, maybe your competitor is buying the food or making food at home and not going out at all. I did some work recently with one of the major cruise lines, and I asked them who is their competitor. What other cruise lines do they compete against? What they told me is that they don't compete against cruise lines because the cruise business is growing. They compete against what they call land-based vacations, where people go to resorts or Hawaii or the Bahamas or somewhere else. They compete against all vacations on land as opposed to vacations at sea. That's their competitor. A competitor is an alternate use of the same money that your product costs. Now, another competitor may be the fact that your customer does not even know that your product or service is available. Sometimes we say your major competitor is just ignorance. Is people don't know that your product or service is available and that it can do certain things for your prospective customer. They don't know that it's there. So sometimes your major job is to advertise, to promote, to sell, to get the knowledge of your product out there. I'll give you a great example. There was a gentleman who worked for years and years and years to develop a light bulb that lasted for 50,000 hours. And he tried to sell it over and over again, but it cost 2 or 3 times as much as a normal light bulb. Finally, when he was just about ready to quit, he was invited onto a television show, and on the television show he talked about the light bulb. And a major national company that managed office buildings saw it and realized this would be the perfect light bulb for hard-to-get-at places within their stairwells and fire escapes. They bought 50,000 light bulbs from him and made him a millionaire overnight. He finally got the information out. How could you get information about the special qualities of your products or services to more people who could buy from you? This is a critical question, and ignorance could be your biggest competitor. Well, your customer always has 3 choices in any market. Number 1, your customer can buy from you. Number 2, the customer can buy from your competitor. And number 3, your customer can decide not to buy from either of you and do something else with the money. This is what you're focused on all the time, is to get them not to buy from your competitor and not to spend the money somewhere else, but to buy it from you. And to do that, you have to convince them that you are the very best choice. So start off and make a list of all the competitors that can take business or sales away from you. Sometimes we encourage people to make up what is called a competitive grid, where they list all of their competitors on down one side and all the features and benefits that competitors offer down the other, and then they put in X's to determine what it is that their competitors offer that they don't, and what is it that they offer that their competitors don't. Now you have to ask these questions. Why do your customers buy from your competitors? One of the things I would do when I started off in selling, if I found that my prospects were buying from my competitors, I would ask them, why specifically did you decide to buy from them? Sometimes I'll tell my sales professionals is call up a person who bought from your competitor and say, tell me, what was the final element that caused you to buy from my competitor? And they'll tell you. And sometimes if you can find out what it is, you can find out a way to counteract that perceived strength. Next question is, what benefits or advantages does your customer perceive that he or she gets in buying from your competitor rather than buying from you? In other words, what do they feel they're getting? Remember, customers are predominantly emotional. They buy a feeling or an emotion. And when you ask them, why do you feel our competitor is better than we are, they'll almost instantly tell you. And once you know that, you know what you have to beat. You know where you have to develop superiority. Another question is, in what ways is your competitor superior to you? And here's an important point. Never ever dismiss or criticize or say anything bad about your competitors. Why? Instead, you should admire your competitors, because if you admire them and look at what they are doing that is superior to you, the way they sell it, the way they deliver it, the way they service it, what that will do is it will give you rare insights into what you have to do to be superior to them in the future. So never criticize your competitors, never dismiss your competitors. Always look at what they're doing well and see how you can either emulate it or copy it or even beat it or go one step beyond them in the future. Ask yourself, what are the major strengths of your competition? Sometimes the major strength is that they've just been around longer than you have. Sometimes they have a great service reputation. I'll give you an example. One day we sat down to buy new computers for our entire business. And we finally made the choice. It cost us $150,000. And we made the choice to go with one company rather than another, because the major strength of that company was after-sales service. The first company had the same quality of products, but since computers always end up having problems, we had to go with a company that would service them quickly if there was a problem. So what are the major strengths of your competitors, and how could you compensate for those strengths? Finally, what are the major weaknesses or vulnerabilities of your competitor, and how could you take advantage of those weaknesses? I can tell you this, when we bought the computers, the people who wanted us to buy computers from them pointed out all the problems in after-sales service, which was a major vulnerability of the other company, and as a result, we switched the order to the company that could take better care of us after we bought. Now here's an important point. Choose your competitor carefully. Choose your competitor carefully, because that determines your entire strategy in business. And let's say you're starting off in business, or you have a medium-sized business. Your competitor is not the Fortune 500 giant. You're not competing against those companies. You're competing with other companies in your same band of sort of size, product range, prices, methods of doing business. You only have to win within your band. You don't have to compete against the biggest in the world. You just have to be the best within that particular band. Very important. So, question, what do you have to do to win customers away from your competitors? Since customers are disloyal, what do you have to offer them to get them to buy from you rather than from someone else? This is very important. Sometimes it only takes one thing that you can offer that your competitors can't to cause your customer to come to you and then to stay with you. Question, what must your customer be convinced of to buy from you? What must the customer be absolutely convinced they will get if they buy from you rather than from someone else? Another question is, why should your customer switch from you or from your competitor to buy from you. This is one of the hardest things in business, by the way, is getting a customer to switch because of what is called the comfort zone. Sometimes people get into a habit of buying from a particular company, and they become relaxed. They know where it is. They've dealt with them before. And even if you offer a better product or service or a better price, they will still stay with the old company unless you can give them a real good reason to switch. Many companies, by the way, will offer to buy out the previous contract, pay off all the rent if you switch to a new building, take your car or piece of equipment as a trade-in. They'll make it very easy for the customer to switch to them. Now, what value does your customer seek that you offer better than your competitors? Remember, in customer psychology, it only has to be one key value that you offer that's better than your competitors that will cause them to come to you. Many times, by the way, your customers don't know that you offer this key value. So you have to find out, and a very good question is, what would have to happen for you to buy from someone else? What would you have to get from someone else, including ourselves, that you're not getting from your current supplier that would cause you to switch? And sometimes they'll say, well, if you could do this or you could do that, and they will tell you what you need to convince them of. And if you can get the sale. And finally, where is your competitor most vulnerable? Remember, great wars, great battles are not necessarily won by attacking the enemy's strengths, but by attacking the enemy's vulnerabilities. Where is your competitor most vulnerable, and how could you take advantage of that? To develop competitive advantage, your product or service must be better in at least 3 ways. People say, well, I have to have one thing. No, you have to have 3 ways in order to get into the market. And here's some of the ways that your product or service could be superior. Number 1, your product or service could sell at a lower cost with the same level of quality. Or 2, your product could be of higher quality at the same level of price. Or 3, your product could offer additional features and benefits that are very important to the customer that your competitors don't have. Or 4, your product could be easier to buy and to use. Customers are very big into convenience. Many companies have transformed their industries by just making it very easy to buy from them and making the product or service very easy to use. Apple Computer is a perfect example. It has always been easier and more fun to use than any other computer. And that's why they've managed to sell more than $1 billion worth of Apple computers. Now, another way that you could be better is your product must be easier to deliver, and you must be easier to service your product. You must be able to do it faster. So, for example, Federal Express delivers very quickly. UPS develops very quickly. Some companies have same-day service. Some companies, when you have a need, will be there within 2 hours. That will cause people to buy from them rather than someone who gets there later on. Your product might have better guarantees and warranties. Sometimes a company that offers a sweeping guarantee will take enormous business away from companies that don't. Do you remember in the car wars when Audi came out and offered bumper-to-bumper service, guarantee, warranty for 5 years and just literally swept the market? When companies were coming out and offering 8-year warranties when before their warranties were 2 months? And you can offer superior service after the sale. In fact, one of the very best competitive advantages today is to be able to serve your customers in a superior way. So the word goes out that when you buy from these people, they take wonderful care of you afterwards. Now, you have to be absolutely clear about the competitive advantages that you will have to develop to succeed. You see, it's hard to get a customer to switch from someone else to buying from you. And you have to determine how much it will cost for you to develop a product and enter a new market. You have to determine how much it's going to cost for you to develop competitive advantage. And the rule is it takes 2 to 4 years for you to bring a new product or service into an existing market, because it's so hard to get people to switch over time. You have to determine how long it will take for you to become successful selling against your competitors. Interesting point. In Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, several of the companies in there looked at their existing market and realized that because of the nature of the competition, they could not be great in that market. so they switched to a whole new market where they became one of the greatest companies in the industry. Sometimes companies have to actually switch their product or service offerings, their competitors, their markets, their customers, in order to become excellent, because they simply cannot invest the amount of time and money it takes to be superior to their existing competition. You have to consider the possibility always of entering a different market where there is less competition for your product. Now, your goal is to develop a product or service that is excellent in one or more ways. If your product or service were the best in the business, what would people say about it? Remember, you could only win in competition if people perceive your product or service to be the best. If your product were the best, in what way would it be the best, and what words would people use to describe it? What would you have to include in your product or service to get people to say that you're the best in the business? What would you have to add to your product or service? How would you have to upgrade the quality, the ease of use, the service, the reliability for people to say that you're the best? Answering this question is the key to analyzing your competition and achieving competitive advantage. Finally, continually look for ways to lower your price, to offer something different, or to sell your product or service in a different market. Remember, the keys to success in business are marketing and innovation. And innovation is always looking for faster, better, cheaper, easier, more effective ways to position against competition. Continually seek for weaknesses or vulnerabilities in the products and services of your competitors. To win the business wars, you must be continually looking for ways to develop strengths and areas of superiority in the products and services that you offer. Remember, your ability to sell effectively in competitive markets is the key to success as an entrepreneur or as a business person of any size. Sometimes when I speak to my business audiences, I ask the question, what is the purpose of a business? And almost invariably people shout back, to make a profit, to make money, to make a lot of money, to get rich. Well, that's not quite correct. The purpose of a business is actually to create and keep a customer. And if you look at a business, if you look inside it, you'll find that all successful businesses are focused on creating and keeping customers, marketing and sales, getting the customers, and then servicing the customers and holding on to them. A profit is the result of creating and keeping a customer in a cost-effective way. Therefore, the basic management functions are innovation and marketing, because only they are capable of creating and keeping customers, generating sales, revenues, and cash flow. The most important skill of the entrepreneur or the business person is the ability to market the product or service. An average product or service, intelligently and aggressively marketed, will run circles around a brilliant product or service with poor marketing behind it. Unfortunately, most entrepreneurs and business people have never been trained in marketing. But fortunately, marketing skills can be learned, and that's what we'll talk about in the next few minutes. Now, the key to marketing the product is this, marketing is the process of determining what is to be produced and sold. It requires analysis of the market, analysis of the competition, analysis of trends, customer service surveys, customer questionnaires, and so on, to find out what it is that people really want and will buy. On the other hand, selling is the process of determining how the product or service is to be sold once it has been determined by the marketing department. So the marketing department determines what, and the selling process determines how it's to be sold. Now, the key question in marketing is this, and I came to this after many, many years. I put it all together in a single paragraph. And here it is. What exactly is to be sold, and to whom is it going to be sold? Those are the first two questions. What is the product and who is the customer? The third part of it is, and by whom is it going to be sold? In other words, who's going to actually do the selling and get the money? And the next part of the question is, how is it going to be bought and paid for? In other words, what is the sales process? And how is the product or service going to be produced, delivered, and serviced? So let me repeat that one more time. This is the key question, and it's this, is what exactly is to be sold, and to whom is it going to be sold, and by whom is it going to be sold, and how is it going to be sold and paid for, and how is the product or service going to be produced, delivered, and serviced? You have to ask these questions over and over again, because our discovery is this: inaccurate answers to any one of these questions can lead to business failure. For example, you could have the question wrong, who is going to sell it? If you don't know who is going to sell it, or how is it going to be sold, or how is it going to be produced or delivered, or exactly to whom is it going to be sold and at what price? If you don't have the exact correct answers to these, what happens is you'll go off on the wrong track, and you can often lead to the failure of the business. But if all these questions are answered correctly, and they need to be revisited over and over again, you can make a very successful business. Well, here's a rule. The product or service must be well suited to the current market. It must be priced appropriately and aggressively marketed and sold. Let me repeat that. The product or service must be well suited to the current market. How can you tell? Because people want it and are buying it. It must be priced appropriately relative to competition and relative to what you've got contained in the product or service, and it must be aggressively marketed and sold. You have to always be thinking of ways to get more of your product or service to your customers in a competitive market. First rule of marketing is that the customer is always right. The second rule, by the way, is when in doubt, refer back to the first rule. In our marketplace, the customer is everything. The customer is the central focus of all marketing efforts, all business efforts. You can always tell a good company because they are obsessed with customer service. They think about their customers, talk about their customers, discuss their customers. They think about their customers all the time. Well, unsuccessful products that are not selling must be either improved or removed from the market. Now remember this, 80% of all the products and services that will be in use 5 years from now have not been invented. 80% of the products in common use today will no longer be in the market 5 years from now. Companies spend fortunes to bring products and services to the market, but what happens is about 80% of them fail every year. So if a product is not working, you either have to improve it, revise it, reorganize it, or remove it from the market and sell something else. Remember, it is not what a company produces, but what customers want that determines marketing demand. It's not from the inside. As Peter Drucker says, there are no profits inside a business. All profits come from creating and keeping customers and satisfying those customers so that they buy more and talk to their friends about what you sell. Now, a new product or service must be better in at least 3 ways to break into the market. First of all, the product must be clearly superior in some way. The product has to be better than any other product out there in some way. For example, the product can be cheaper, the same level of quality at a lower price. This is one of the reasons why products from Asia are becoming so popular. They're as high a quality as anything else that has been offered, especially from Europe or other manufacturers, but they're much cheaper because of their cost of production and labor. Or the product can be easier to use. Making a product so it's much easier to use, much more convenient, can make it more valuable and help you break into the market. The product can be more convenient to buy. By making the product easier to acquire, you can make your product attractive enough to break into the market. For example, making your product available like Amazon, perfect example. If you want to buy a book, you can go to Amazon. It's delivered to your house in 3 days. You never have to leave your home. You can see a mention of a book or hear about a book. You can buy it with 2 clicks, which is a critical thing. Click onto Amazon and 1-click buying. So they made it so easy to buy millions of products that they've been able to create a billion-dollar business. Another way is the product can be more attractive. It could just be more beautiful to use. Luggage, cosmetics, fashion, cars, home, furniture. Just if it's more beautiful to use, that can help you to break into the market. The product can offer additional features or benefits. For instance, a very simple camera can be upgraded and improved, so now you can get a digital camera that can shoot movies, that can take photographs, that can send them and put them onto the internet. You can get cell phones that can do remarkable things. With these additional features and benefits, they sell tens of billions of dollars worth each year in a market that did not even exist a few years ago. Another example is the product can be of a higher quality at the same price. Many manufacturers are finding ways to build quality into their products, keeping the price the same but selling vastly more of the product because people will pay more or buy more often a product or service that is higher quality. The product can satisfy the customer's deepest needs better. It can satisfy their emotional needs. So you have to look at all the different ways, and you must find at least 3 ways that your product or service is superior if you want to break into a competitive market. Now, there are 4 keys to strategic marketing. These have not changed in all of history, and you need to keep coming back to them over and over again. The first is specialization. In specialization, the company specializes in providing a clear benefit to a particular customer. Only huge companies can offer a lot of different products and services. But companies, small and medium-sized companies, have to specialize. They have to specialize so that when people think about your company, they think about your area of specialization. I'll give you an example. There are some restaurant chains that specialize in steak. When you think of their name, you think of steak. Some specialize in seafood. When you think of the name of that restaurant, you think about seafood. It doesn't mean that they don't offer other dishes, but they specialize in a particular highly popular dish. Now, there's several ways you can specialize. You can specialize in a particular market. For example, you can specialize in the California market. You can specialize in the homeowners market. You can specialize in the doctor's market. I had a very good client once that specialized in law offices. All they did was sell to law offices, and they eventually built the largest company in the country, a billion-dollar business, selling products and services just to law offices. Right? A second way that you can specialize is you can specialize providing a particular benefit. Many insurance companies do this. HMOs do this. It can be a medical service of some kind, but it's a specific benefit that you specialize in, and then that's all that you do. And you don't digress from your area of specialization. Sometimes your company can specialize in providing a particular service. For example, there are companies that do carpet cleaning, window cleaning, drape cleaning. They specialize just in that service, and they concentrate on getting better and better in a specific area. Some companies specialize in cleaning and detailing cars. Other companies specialize in interior renovations. But they don't try to be all things to all people. They specialize in a particular service. Another area that you can specialize in is in a particular technology. Microsoft, for example, specializes in personal computer technology. Intel specializes in chips, in technology. So you can specialize in a particular technology, and that determines your whole business. Sometimes the company can specialize in servicing a specific type of customer. Some people service teenagers and focus on teenagers. Some focus on senior citizens. Some focus on doctors. Some focus on lawyers. So you can take a specific type of customer and specialize in that customer. And finally, you can specialize in a particular location or area. Many companies will decide to specialize just in a small community. They will focus just on becoming the very best known for their specialty in that particular location or area. What are your areas of specialization? How would your customers and colleagues describe you in terms of what area do you specialize in your business? Now, the second part of marketing, which is my favorite part, is differentiation. There's a book by Reese and Trout called Differentiate or Die. And what it basically says is that all marketing is differentiating yourself from your competitors. It is the key to success in business. It means you have to set yourself aside and apart in a special way from everyone else who competes with you in your business. We talk about this over and over again. It's called your competitive advantage. And the question is, what is your competitive advantage? What do you have in your business that makes your offerings superior to any of your competitors? What is your competitive advantage today? What will your competitive advantage be tomorrow, the way market trends are going? What should your competitive advantage be if you wanted to be the best in your business? What could your competitive advantage be if you were to upgrade the quality of your products or services? But the rule is, if you don't have competitive advantage, you've got to develop one. If you can't develop one and be superior to your competitors, you should abandon the market and get into the area where you can be excellent. And this brings us to the second part of differentiation, is your area of excellence. You have to be excellent, superior to your competition in one or more ways, and you must be crystal clear what they are. Everybody in your company must know what they are, and you must constantly strive to maintain your lead in that area of excellence. That is the key to selling more and to selling more at higher prices. And the final part of differentiation is called your unique selling proposition. This is the one feature or benefit or distinctive characteristic that makes your product or service clearly superior to your competitors. It's something that only you have, that no other competitor can offer, and customers are willing to buy and pay for that unique selling proposition. Question is, what is yours? What is your unique selling proposition? Now, the third part of marketing is called segmentation. Segmentation means focusing marketing and selling efforts on a specific type of customer. What kind of customer? Well, you identify the exact type of customer who can most benefit from the superior features of your product or service in your area of specialization. This becomes what is called your target market. These are the prospects that you focus all of your attention on. Identify the precise location of your ideal customers. Where are they? Geographically, where are they in businesses? Where are they economically? Where are they in their careers? Second of all, you identify the ideal method of sale to those customers. Sometimes you find that your ideal customers prefer to buy by the internet, prefer to buy by direct sales, prefer to buy by coming to your establishment, prefer to buy by catalog. Figure out the very best way of selling to them, and then identify the ideal marketing channel. What is the way that you advertise, promote, get the message out to that market segment? All sales success today depends upon segmenting your market, your target market clearly, and then focusing your marketing efforts on convincing them that in your area of specialization, your area of differentiation is of greatest concern to them and is the real reason why they should buy from you now. Now, the fourth part of marketing is concentration. First of all, specialize, then differentiate, then segment, and then concentrate. Focus all your time, attention, and money on those customers, your ideal best customers. Remember the 80-20 rule. 20% of your prospects will turn into 80% of your sales. 20% of your customers will buy 80% of your products. 20% of your customers will count for 80% of your profits. 20% of your customers will account for 80% of your referrals, and so on. Your job is to keep thinking who are or who could be your top 20% of prospects and customers. Once you've determined who they are, concentrate your best people and resources on selling your most profitable products and services to your best customers. One of the key questions in marketing today is, who are my most profitable customers? And how could you organize and reorganize your activities so you're selling more and more of your best products and services to your best and most profitable customers? All advertising and promotion must be focused and concentrated on the customers that can make the greatest contribution to your business. You know, they say there's two types of customers. They're the ones that know you, like you, have bought from you in the past, and will buy from you again if you ask them. And then there are those who have never heard of you before. And what is it that most companies do? Is they advertise and promote to customers who have never heard of them before, rather than concentrating on their very best potential customers of today and tomorrow. Now, the ability of the entrepreneur, your ability to continually innovate and create better, faster, cheaper ways to service your customers is essential. Remember, continuous and never-ending improvement. Always looking for better ways. So, continually seek out or develop new products and services for your highest profit customers. Listen to their questions. Especially listen to your customers' complaints. Do you guys offer this? Why don't you offer that? I wish somebody offered this. Very often, the very best ideas for new products and services will come from listening to your best customers. Continually seek to improve your existing products and services. Never become complacent. Always be looking for ways to make them better. Like cars try to make every model year superior to the previous model year. Every year, your products or services should be superior to what you offered last year. And finally, continually seek out better ways to market, sell, promote, and distribute. Never become complacent with your ways of doing it. Now, you need to continually identify customers who are not yet being served by you. Here's one of the greatest discoveries in marketing. Your non-customer is your biggest potential market. No matter how many people are using a product or service, the number of people who are not using it are usually greater than all of those put together. So, keep thinking, who are my non-customers and why aren't they buying from you? Ask yourself, what additional customers exist for your products and services today? Where are there additional customers who could really benefit from what you sell who are not currently using it? Ask, what additional products and services could you develop for your existing customers? Remember, innovation and entrepreneurship, finding new products and services, it must be a continual and ongoing part of your business. And finally, could you improve your existing products and services in some way? How could you make them better so that they will be more attractive to more of your current customers and more of your prospective customers? To wrap up, marketing is the process of continually seeking out new and better ways to create and keep customers. Profitability in your business is the result of finding and serving customers with more and more of what they want. Your ability to do this is the key to your success. This is a very important lesson. Let's start off by saying the purpose of a business is to create a customer. All sales, revenues, profits, and growth are the result of creating enough customers in a cost-effective way. All marketing, advertising, and promotion of every kind is aimed at buying customers at a lower cost than the profits they generate when they buy from you. You are in the business of buying customers. Every bit of advertising and promotion you put out is an attempt to buy customers at a profit. Your goal is to acquire customers, to generate leads, and then convert those leads into customers who buy from you, buy again, and tell their friends. That's the central focus of your business. In its simplest terms, every business is in the business of customer acquisition. Your main goal, your central purpose, is to buy as many customers as you can, as fast as you can. Now, marketing and sales are different in a special way. Marketing includes the entire process of lead generation, starting from new product development and continuing through pricing, promotion, advertising, positioning, and packaging. The purpose of marketing ultimately is to make selling unnecessary. If your marketing efforts are good enough, customers will just walk in, dial up, or buy in some other way. Think of McDonald's, for example. People just walk in and buy. They don't have to be sold because all the marketing, the promotion has brought them in. But unfortunately, it seldom happens that people just walk in and buy. Ultimately, somebody has to sell them something. So selling is the process of converting sales leads or prospects into paying customers. You know, you may have a business where 1 out of 10 people who responds to your advertising buys. I worked with a large multinational corporation. For every 100 prospects, 4 of them actually bought. For 100 prospects who came into their business, only 4 bought. I showed them how to increase that from 4 to 5, and it added $100 million to their bottom line. It increased from 4 to 5, that's an increase of 25%. They were already a multi-billion-dollar company. By increasing from 4% to 5%, they increased their bottom line profits by $100 million. The company was selling for about 25 times earning in the stock market, which means that those additional profits translated into $2.5 billion in additional market value on the stock market for 1% increase in the 100 people that came in to look. So converting leads into customers is a really important business. Your job is to convert leads from the very first customer contact through to the satisfactory delivery of the product or service. This is why selling skills are essential to successful businesses. And it's absolutely amazing how many people start a business and they say, well, I'll just hire some salespeople. I'll just get some salespeople. I'll just hire somebody, or I'll have her or him sell. No, no. The heartbeat of a business is the ability to sell once you've attracted the leads. And we'll talk about how to attract leads in a minute, but we have companies, one of my companies, we have an 80% conversion rate. It is 80% of people who walk in buy. I work with other businesses where the conversion rate is 90%, and some places, not my business, where the conversion rate is 10%. Sometimes the conversion rate is even lower. The conversion rate is really important. So you have to focus intensely on lead generation, on attracting prospects who can and will buy within a reasonable period of time, and ideally, you want customers who will buy immediately. There are many ways to generate sales leads, to get people to pay attention and approach you for the first time. First of all, you can place ads in newspapers, magazines, or other publications. This is one of the most common ways of advertising. But when you do, here are the key things to remember. Your ad must be simple, clear, and easy to understand. One of the things I've learned over my business career is the value of imagining a 10-year-old child. And you must write your ad, or design your ad, so that a 10-year-old child can look at your ad and is so clear about what it is that you're selling and why they should respond that they can tell and convince a second 10-year-old child to respond to your advertising. Your advertising should never be, well, it's supposed to mean, or what we're trying to say, or what we're trying to get across. No, it must be so clear a child can understand it. Please, it's very important. So, the second part of your ad, your headline, should offer the most important benefit that your customer wants to enjoy already by buying your products. 25% to 35% of every written ad should be the headline. And the headline should appeal to an existing need, pain, want, desire, hurt that the customer already has. For example, sometimes when you're driving through the countryside, you'll see a huge billboard and have a big sign that'll say, hungry, question mark. You know, Martha's Restaurant 2 miles ahead. Because what they're doing is they're trying to appeal to a major need that already exists. One of the most successful print ads in the world is by Preparation H. It's an ad that has a huge word that says, hemorrhoids, question mark. And then it says, if you have scratching and itching or pain and itching, get Preparation H. It'll take it away instantly. It made Preparation H the most successful hemorrhoid treatment in the history of the world because they knew that the primary headline was aimed right at their ideal customer, the person who most wanted their product and service now. A second thing about your ad, another thing is your ad must tell specifically what you offer, the specific results or benefits the customer will receive, and why your offer is superior to any other competitive product that's available. In other words, they have to have a reason to come to you rather than someone else. You don't want a sign that says hungry, a person says, geez, I'm hungry, and then a whole bunch of other restaurants that they can go to. There's got to be a reason. Martha's Genuine Home Cooking, served piping hot. In other words, got to be a reason why people come to you. Finally, your ad must tell the customer exactly what action you want the reader to take immediately. In other words, you say, do this now, call now, come in, pick up the phone this minute, purchase it today. In other words, don't say, here's a wonderful product that's really neat, and just leave it like that. When you look at ads, by the way, you'll find 50, 60, 70% of ads, many of them designed by very expensive agencies, just lay there on the table. They give no reason to buy. They're just kind of statements like, we sell nice cars. And that's basically all it is. But your ad has to pop. Your ad has to punch. And here's the only way that you can tell if your ad works. It causes immediate response. An advertisement that is good causes people to telephone or to dial up on the internet or to walk in the door immediately. If that is not happening, it means the ad is no good. The second way that you can attract leads, you can advertise on the radio. When you advertise on the radio, first you must capture the attention of the prospect immediately with a strong statement or question. Going out for dinner tonight? Come to Harry's restaurant, bring your spouse, and we'll give you a free bottle of wine. The most delicious food on the coast. You see that? Bang, bang, bang. Going out for dinner, you immediately appeal to people who are going out for dinner, who want a bottle of wine, going with their spouse, and delicious food. Something like that. This doesn't have to be artful. It just has to have a strong statement or question that connects instantly with a person driving along whose mind is on 1,000 different things. You must make it clear what your product or service will achieve, avoid, or preserve for the customer. You could have a testimonial. I just ate at Charlie's and it was the most beautiful dinner I've had in years. In other words, that's what you get if you come to Charlie's. We've now covered in a 30-second ad the first 15 seconds. That's why, by the way, many advertisers are now using 15-second ads because they find it doesn't really take that long to get across the critical message if you focus on the critical message. You must tell the customer exactly what action you want him to take immediately. In a radio ad, give your telephone number or address twice and end with a call for action. Our address is 1525 Main Street, and our phone number is 235-236-2487. That's 235-236-2587. Call now to reserve. In other words, always end with a call now. Come in now. Do this now. Don't ever let an ad just kind of die away. In every case, make it easy for your customer to buy. Make it easy for them to understand why they should buy. Many advertisers think tricky advertising works. No, straightforward, simple, honest advertising that gives people a reason to buy is what causes your phone to ring. You can advertise and generate leads by using direct mail. When you do, you must choose your mailing list carefully by clearly identifying the type of customer who will buy immediately. Ask yourself, who is my customer? Who are the people that buy today? Who have bought in the past? Who is my ideal customer? What do they do? Where do they work? What sort of jobs do they have? What kind of education? Where do they live? Where is their business? In other words, when you design your mailing list, you want to rifle in on exactly the kind of people who read that and say, that's for me. I want that now. You must make your offer in a direct mailing clear, attractive, and desirable. Your letter or mailing should trigger the reaction, that's for me, I want that now. People should read it and say, honey, did you see what's in the mail? Now, I've said before you should ask a child to make sure a child understands, but you should also ask women. Women are the very best people of assessing advertising. You show it to a woman before you send it out and you say, honey, would you respond to this? Susan, if you received this in the mail, would you respond to it? If they don't read it and light up, now they may be polite. If they don't light up, go back and rewrite it until someone says, I would respond to that. That is an interesting ad. I'm curious to know. If a woman doesn't like it and a child can't explain it, go back to the drawing boards. You must request in a direct mail advertisement that the reader take immediate action to enjoy a result or benefit. In other words, give them a reason. Call now, get 10% off. Call now, get a free gift. Call now while supplies are still available. Call now and let us get it out to you by the weekend. Always give a reason, a hooker, an exclamation point to get people to respond immediately. Now, in generating leads, you can use direct selling. Many companies depend solely on direct selling or direct selling in conjunction with other advertising. This is where you send out trained sales professionals to find prospects. We say to get customers from somewhere. If you're going to do this, your salespeople must be carefully selected for character, ability, and personality. We stop for a second. Character means that they're honest people. People will only buy from other people that they sense are honest. Ability means that they're skilled at selling, and personality means that they're nice people. Always send out people that you'd be happy to have dinner with or invite home for Sunday dinner with your family. Remember, the #1 word to describe the best salespeople in every industry is he or she is a nice person. Now, your salespeople, if you're going to use salespeople, must be thoroughly trained in every step of your sales process. More than 70% of companies do no sales training at all. They do a little product training, and they think, well, that's the same, isn't it? No, it's not. Sales training is where people know how exactly what to say to get an appointment. They know exactly what to say to ask questions. They know exactly how to develop a customer and to learn what the customer needs. They're thoroughly trained in the face-to-face interaction process, not the product. An average company with an average product can sell $1 jillion worth if it has great salespeople. A super company with a super product can go broke if it doesn't have well-trained salespeople. Your salespeople must have clear sales goals for each week and each month. You sit down, agree, and give them a target. Remember, even the most motivated person can't hit a target that they can't see. Your salespeople must have clear activity goals. So in other words, you say, all right, this is your sales goal. You want to make this many sales. But in order to do that, if you're closing 1 person out of 5, then you'll have to speak to 5 people in order to get 1 sale. We expect you to get 1 sale per day, so that you must see 5 people per day in order to get 1 sale. So begin first thing in the morning and focus on seeing 5 people. These activity goals are prospecting, customer calls, presentations, closed sales for each day, for each week, for each month. If you have direct sales force, you must monitor and manage the activity of your salespeople on a regular basis. You can't just meet them once a week and say, how are things going? Every day, every day. When I've taken over companies that have sales forces, the very first thing I do is I have sales meetings every morning at 8 o'clock for 30 minutes, where we talk about what we're going to do that day, and sales meetings every evening at 5 to 5:30, where we review what happened. Morning and night, morning and night, morning and night. And wham, do people ever get wired. You can use the internet to contact selected names, but you cannot legally send out spam emails anymore. So the best way to market via the internet is by creating what are called strategic alliances with companies that have large databases of names. Sometimes you can go to them and say, look, you have names of people that typically buy our product. Let's do a deal, and we will give you a percentage, a commission, a royalty, a profit share of everybody from your database who buys from us. We do this, by the way, on an average of once a week. We sell millions of dollars of products of our own and those of others by doing strategic alliances. They then sell our products on their list, on their internet site, onto their list. We sell their products to ours. Everybody benefits. You can send regular special offers to the names of customers and prospects on your own lists. One of the most important things you do when you start into business is you track everybody's address and email address and contact them once a week. And if you have a special, let them know. One of the best companies that I know, Nordstrom's, for example, has what is called a pre-sale special. They say, we have a special sale on these highly desirable products, and because you are our inner circle of customers, for 3 days you can come in before we put the products out to the public and take your pick. My wife loves these because they come to her on a regular basis with special offers for their customers. How could you do that for your own lists? Another way to do internet marketing is you can do affiliate marketing with other companies that sell different products, non-competing products, to the same kind of customers that you do. For example, we have more than 600 affiliates that we market with on the internet. These companies all have their own databases and their own customers, and they all sell non-competing products. So what we do is we say, if you send us a customer, we'll give you a commission. We'll give you a percentage of the profits. So you have 600 companies nationwide that are sending us customers as affiliates on a regular basis. And you can do this as well. Now, a sixth way that you can generate leads is you can do what are called postcard mailings. And this is a new way of mailing. It's a direct mail way that we find very effective. Oversized postcards, 5 by 8 inches in full color, will often trigger excellent response rates, even better than letters packed with information. Because often a direct mail letter, unfortunately, just gets thrown away unopened. But a postcard always gets looked at. People look at the postcard, especially if it's attractive, they flip it over, they look at the other side, and if it has an offer on there, they'll often just pick up the phone or respond. On every postcard, you have to offer a specific product or service, or even a free offer. But it has to be clear. A person has to glance at the photograph and know instantly, like a child, what you're selling. Ask the receiver who receives the postcard to take an immediate action. I'm absolutely amazed at the number of people who send postcards, absolutely beautiful postcards, and there is the product, and it just lays there like a person who's unconscious. It doesn't say call. It gives a phone number if you're interested, if you ever feel like it, if you ever get around to it. It gives no reason to respond. Now, I've read the whole darn postcard because it's attractive, and there's no incentive to pick up the phone. Don't let that happen to you. Seventh way that you can generate leads is you can advertise on television. This is the most expensive, but it's the best way to reach a large audience. If you're going to advertise on television, spend 20% to 50% of your whole budget producing the ad in the first place. It's amazing how many people will run a cheap ad to sell an expensive product. Remember, the ad is everything. A good ad will knock people's eyes out and cause your phone to fall off the hook. But a poor ad, even if it's a great product, nobody will respond to it. When you use television, remember this, and I learned this so many years ago, is television is not radio in motion. Television is very different. You use television to show pictures of your product or service solution in action. Remember, a visual impact is vastly greater than an auditory impact. So show people what the solution looks like. If you're advertising Charlie's Restaurant, show people in the restaurant laughing, tinkling glasses, happy, music in the background. Come to Charlie's for a beautiful evening out. That's what really gets people's attention. Rather than just a person standing there and saying, come to Charlie's, I'm Charlie, Charlie's Restaurant is good. Television is not made for talking heads. Television is made to show the product in action. Make it clear what you want your prospective customer to do immediately. Always end it with a call to action. Sometimes they'll say, well, what you want to do is what is called institutional advertising. Let people know that you're out there. Let people know that you offer this product or service, and they'll find their way to your door. No, people need to be told. Remember, people are busy. People need to be told what to do. Now, here's a rule. All advertising is risky. Most ads and sales efforts do not work initially. Some don't work at all. 4 out of 5, 9 out of 10 advertising attempts that you make won't work. They won't draw. I've mentioned in an earlier session that we did an internet offer, and we got 130 people who responded. We pulled it back and said, well, there's something wrong here. We completely revised the ad, simplified the offer completely, made it benefit-oriented, and ran the same ad to the same people 7 days later and got 1,400 responses. We increased our response rate by 1,000% by simply changing the ad a little bit. You've heard it said that fully half of all advertising dollars are wasted, but the problem is nobody knows which half it is. Sometimes it's 80 or 90% of advertising dollars. So here's your rules with regard to getting customers. Advertising is an investment with an expected rate of return or profit as a result. Advertising is not an expense where you spend the money and go on with the rest of your life, like a punishment or a penalty. If you advertise and you spend $1, you should expect to get $2 or $3 in profits as a return. If you don't think that you're going to get a profit, then don't spend the money. Only spend money to generate profits. Some advertising will give you $5 back for every dollar you spend. Some advertising will give you nothing. But you must be very hard-minded with regard to an advertising expenditure. The first thing you do in advertising is you determine your break-even point for your product or service. This is the amount of profit that you make from each sale. Let's say you make $10 profit after everything from a sale. Well, you then divide this number into the cost of the advertising to determine how many sales you will have to make to earn a profit with this advertising. For example, let's say you make $10 profit per sale, and the advertisement you're looking at costs $1,000. Your break-even point would then be 100 units. You would divide $10 into 1,000 units. You'd have to sell 100 for this ad to pay off. You would only advertise in this form if you were confident that you could sell more than 100 units as a result of this advertising. Best is 200 units, so you make 100% profit on your advertising. 300, 400, 500 would be better. But if there's any doubt, you think, geez, there's no way we can sell 100 cars with this ad, or 100 whatever it is you sell, then don't advertise at all. If you are going to run an ad, only run it once. If it doesn't pay for itself, stop it immediately. The dumbest thing that we can do is run an ad that's not working. Do everything possible to reduce your risk in advertising and lead generation. Determine your break-even point in advance. How many sales will you have to get to justify the advertising? Test the advertising method on a small scale to find out if it works. If you're going to do direct mail, before you do 5,000 pieces, send out 100 pieces and see what happens. With newspapers or magazines, run one small ad and test the responses. Some years ago, by the way, we had an ad and we placed it in 6 magazines. We found and we tracked not only the number of responses, but the number of sales that we got from those responses. We found that one magazine outdrew all the others put together. So we canceled all our advertising in all the other publications and advertised in one. Our response rate was 500% for ads in this publication relative to the others. We dramatically lowered our cost of advertising without increasing or decreasing our response rate in our sales. With radio or television, you run the ad once or twice and measure the number of customers who call or visit. Remember, this is called direct response advertising. A person should see the ad and respond immediately. When advertisers sell you advertising, they'll say, oh, people will remember you and buy later. No, they won't, because the average person sees 4,000 advertisements a day of all kinds. If people don't respond immediately, they'll never think about you again. So you must be very, very hard-minded when it comes to advertising. Ask every customer or prospect who contacts you, how did you hear about us? And write it down. Write it down. We found in one of our businesses that 90% of our customers come one way. And of the other 9 different ways that we use to promote, counts for 10% of our customers. So what did we do? Is we beefed up the one way that attracts most of our customers and dramatically increased our business. You should know exactly. If someone were to say to you, where do you get your customers? You should say exactly to the percentage point and know exactly where they come from. The rules with regard to advertising are test, 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 measure, 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 and then test and measure again and again. Keep testing and measuring, because when you find a combination of advertising that generates leads and sales profitably every time, you can grow your sales and profitability without limit. If you can spend $1,000 and get $1,500 profit after the promotion from sales, that means you make $500 every time you advertise. Then you can spend $10,000 and make you $5,000. You can spend $50,000 and make $25,000. Once you have figured out a way to advertise, you can grow endlessly. But you have to test and measure over and over again to find the way. Once you've attracted a lead, an interested prospect, you must focus on converting that lead to a sale. Plan out every step of the sales process, every word from the first customer contact, live or on the phone. Have everyone learn and memorize your telephone or personal greeting and use it continually. For example, thank you for calling. How can I help you? Everybody says the same thing. Thank you for coming in. How can we help you? Some companies say, hello, it's a great day at ABC Company. How can I help you? And everybody says it every time they pick up the phone. Focus on the person. Focus on the relationship first. Don't talk about the product, talk about the person. For example, you can say, hi, where are you calling from? Oh, what's the weather like today in your city? Beautiful. Or, thank you for coming in. Did you have any trouble finding us? Always say something that connects with the person before you talk about the product. Focus on the needs of the prospect once you've built a bridge. Ask questions about what he wants and needs before making any attempt to sell. How can I help you? What is it that you're doing now? What is it that you're looking for? And so on. When you're clear about the customer's needs, show, tell, and teach the customer how and why your product is the best choice for him, all things considered. Be prepared to answer his questions on price, terms, features, and conditions. Make sure everybody knows how to conduct this process the same way over and over. Finally, be prepared to ask for a decision. Be prepared to close the sale at the end of the conversation. It's terrible to meet with a customer or have a customer walk in and walk away. So learn and practice several closing techniques. Ask for referrals and resales at every opportunity. Remember, the easiest customer to sell to, again, is a happy customer. The very best sources of referrals are satisfied customers. So now you've attracted the customer, you've sold the customer, now you have to get a repeat customer and a referral. Immediately after closing the sale and concluding the paperwork and payment, ask for referrals. For example, you could say, "Thank you for your order. By the way, would you happen to know anyone else who might need or want this as well?" And just ask them, and they say, "Well, yeah, my brother, son, friend, uncle, a boss," and take out your pen and be ready to write down the prospect's name. Another great way to get referrals is to send a handwritten thank you note right after each sale. "Thank you so much for buying from us. We'd love to see you. Please come and see us again." Always use a postage stamp to personalize a thank you note. Never put a thank you note through a machine. Always put a postage stamp. People will then feel that you made a special effort to say thank you to them, and that goes a long way. Make a follow-up phone call to thank the new customer. Call up and say, "Just wanted to tell you, thank you for buying from us. Did you happen to have any questions that I may not have covered?" Customers are overwhelmed when people take the time to call them back afterwards. To develop referrals, respond quickly to every customer question or problem. Speed is considered one of the most wonderful things that a company can do for a person. Remember, to get referrals, superb customer service is essential. If you want to get resales and referrals, the better you treat your customers, the more they'll buy from you. So make the customer experience, excellent customer service, your competitive advantage. Resolve from now on that you're going to get the reputation for giving the best customer service in your business. Resolve to take better care of your customers than anyone else. Now, there are specific things you can do to increase your sales and profitability. Here they are. Number one, you can increase the number of leads you get by continually testing different ways to advertise and promote. Number two, you can increase the percentage of leads that you convert into sales by using good sales skills and techniques. Number three, you can increase the size of each sale by upselling and cross-selling or bundling additional products and services with the basic sale so that each sale is larger and, of course, more profitable. Number four, you can take such good care of your customers that he or she buys more often, comes back to you more frequently rather than going somewhere else. Number five is you can give such excellent customer service that your customers send you a steady stream of new customers. They actually become what are called customer advocates. They want their friends to buy from you because of the way you treat them. Remember, the customer is the most important person in any business. Your job is to attract and keep and create as many customers as possible. You should spend 50 to 80% of your time generating new business until you have more sales than you can handle. Never forget, you're in the business of customer acquisition at a lower price than the profit each customer contributes. The more skillful you become at buying profitable customers, the more successful and profitable your business will be. Your goal is to build a successful business, and every year they study thousands of businesses that go broke and analyze what are the reasons. And one of the major reasons is poor cost control. Is the company might be doing great in terms of sales and revenues and activities and so on, but their costs get out of control and the company collapses. They run out of cash. There's a rule that says that life is the study of attention. And the more attention you pay to your costs, the better you get at knowing your costs and especially at reducing them. So the rule is you must know the exact cost of every ingredient that goes into the production of your products or services. And very few people know the exact costs. Business success requires that you tightly monitor or control all your costs at all times. Some years ago, I worked for a man who started with nothing and built a fortune of $800 million. And I was amazed that even at the time when he had his own private jet, he had beautiful homes and luxury resorts, he had hundreds of office buildings, banks, shopping centers, he still was meticulous about the cost of every single ingredient. And that philosophy spread itself out through the entire company, and that company was profitable year after year. And you must do the same as well. Successful entrepreneurs are careful with their money. They control their costs at all times. They practice frugality, frugality, frugality. They're always tight-fisted. And interestingly enough, if you look at some of the biggest and most successful multi-billion-dollar worldwide companies, they're also very careful with their costs. They never take anything for granted, and they are never excessive if they can possibly avoid it. Well, it's essential that you know the exact cost of every product and service that you sell, because you earn a profit by selling a product at a price that is greater than the total cost of producing it. Here's an interesting discovery. Because of poor cost control, many companies actually lose money on many of the products that they sell. They're selling a lot of them, but because of cost of promotion, commissions, returns, breakage, shrinkage, and all those other things, they're actually losing money. So they spend more of their resources selling more of the products, and they keep losing more and more money. Ongoing cost analysis is a key responsibility. Well, in the university, they teach you what is called microeconomic theory. And I took these courses some years ago, and microeconomic theory explains the relationships between cost and price. And I want to just give you 3 laws that you can think about. Number 1 is called the law of increasing returns. What this says is that the more that you produce, the lower the cost will be per item that you produce. Now, here's an important thing. When you start to produce a new product or service, or you start a new business, everything is very expensive at the beginning because you're going through a learning process. You make every mistake, you make every cost overrun. It costs a lot, but as you get better and better and you smooth out the system, you will find that you can produce the same quality and quantity of products and services at a much lower cost. And especially, by the way, you see this in manufacturing. But it takes a lot of money to set up the factory, to set up the equipment, to train the people. The first few products cost a lot. But the better and better they get at it, the more smoothly they produce it, the lower the price becomes. And this is often the key to dominating the market, is to be able to become so efficient that your costs are so low and you pass on those lower costs to your customers and, of course, outsell your competition. That's the law of increasing returns. The law of decreasing returns is the flip side. With some products, you'll actually earn less profit with each item. In other words, because it costs you so much to upgrade your facilities to produce more products, you'll actually lower your profit level by trying to sell too many. A perfect example of that, by the way, is Harley-Davidson Company. Harley-Davidson Company is always selling at the outside limit of their production, and they're encouraged, why don't you build new factories? Because if you built new factories and there was a cutback or a slowdown in sales, we would suddenly have the law of decreasing returns. We'd have all these factories and people on staff, and we'd be selling fewer. So what they do is they produce at the level where they can make the maximum profit, which brings us to the 3rd law. The 3rd law is called the law of marginal return. And the goal in the law of marginal return is to sell exactly the right quantity of products to earn the highest possible profit. And you'll find that every company has a point where at this level of sales, with this level of cost, they make the highest profit per unit. And that is the optimum point. It's the point that every company aims at, and that you have to aim at as well. Well, there are several different kinds of costs that you must be aware of as a business person. The first costs are what are called fixed costs. Now, fixed costs, these are costs that you incur whether you make any sales at all. To do a fixed cost analysis, you say, if we made 0 sales in the following month, how much would it cost us to keep our doors open? And then you realize immediately that a fixed cost is rent, a fixed cost is permanent staff, labor, utilities, taxes, salaries. Their fixed costs are things that you have to pay whether you make no sales at all. That becomes your base, your foundation. And one of the things that you try to do in business is you try to keep lowering your fixed costs. Which brings us to the next type of cost called variable costs. Now, variable costs are costs that you incur each time you make a sale. For example, there's the cost of the goods sold, the product or service that you buy or build to sell. There's the cost of sales commissions, advertising, delivery, shipping. These are costs that are only occurred if you make a sale. So if you can imagine stacking, first you have your fixed cost, then you have your variable costs that stack on top of that. The third type of costs are your semi-variable costs. These are costs that are partially fixed and partially variable. For instance, a labor cost is partially fixed, but you can cut back on it by laying people off or by hiring temps. These costs go up and down, and you have a little bit of control over them, and they vary depending upon your level of business activity. And so then you put your semi-variable costs, like the third level, onto your total, fixed, variable, and semi-variable. Another type of cost that people have, and it's very important, is called a sunk cost. Now, a sunk cost is money that is gone forever. You can never get it back. For instance, it could be an advertising campaign you engaged in last year. It could be a piece of equipment that you bought that is obsolete. It could be a computer that is broken, that no longer works. It could be furniture that's over in your storage. In other words, a fixed cost is money you can never recover. The reason I mention this is that many companies and many business people make the mistake of trying to recover fixed costs, money that's lost forever, by investing more money. We call this pouring money down a rat hole, or sending good money after bad. When you have made a business mistake and you have lost the money, recognize that it's irretrievable and don't spend more money trying to make back something that you can't get back. The final cost you have to be concerned with is called an opportunity cost. Now, an opportunity cost is important. This is money that you could earn if you invested the same amount in another product or service or activity. For example, let us say that to engage in this activity, to produce this product or service, bring it to the market, will cost $100,000. Before you make that decision, ask, what else could I do with the $100,000, and could I earn a higher return? Let me give you an example. Some friends of mine had built up over the years in their family a very successful lumber yard, and they built it almost in the center of town, and over the course of 20, 30, 40 years, the city had grown to 100, 150,000 population, and this land was some of the best land in the city. But they continued to operate their business. They continued to make $200,000 or $300,000 a year profit on their business, which was distributed to their family members. One day, hot summer, the lumberyard caught on fire and it burned down completely. Well, it was completely insured, so the insurance company presented them with an insurance check for something like $20 million. Well, the question was, how quickly do we rebuild? Or do we rebuild outside of town? Do we sell the land? And then they realized, wait a minute, they could invest that $20 million very carefully and intelligently and earn twice as much each year or more than they were earning running the entire lumber company with the whole family working in the company. So what they did is they just simply reinvested the insurance proceeds and the whole family retired because of the opportunity cost. So keep asking, whenever you have to make an investment, is there some other opportunity that you could invest the same money in that would give you a higher or safer or more predictable level of return? Opportunity costs are absolutely critical. Well, in looking at your business, there are several costs that you must include. The first cost, of course, is the cost of the products and services that you buy from others for resale. Not only the products or services, but all the supplies. The cost of the materials that you purchase, the office materials, the computers, the telephones, the accounting equipment, and so on. You have to include the cost of all labor. And there's two types of labor. There's direct and indirect. For example, we have an internet business. In our internet business, we have half of the people who work there are direct. They're on our internal payroll. The other half of people, the people who work in the internet business, are indirect. They're outside contractors, but their labor is essential to the business. So when we calculate the cost of the internet business as a separate business within the business, we calculate all labor inside and outside. You also have to include the cost of sales and marketing and commissions and advertising per product or service that you sell. Now this is important. One of the most important costs you have in business is what is called your acquisition cost. It's your cost of acquiring a sale. Sometimes it's customer acquisition cost, your cost of acquiring a customer who then may make several sales. But you have to think, how much do you pay to get a sale in the first place? When I began my professional speaking career many years ago, I joke, I say I learned to sell again when I began speaking. I sold my house, I sold my car, I sold my furniture, I sold every bit of savings and investments that I ever had in order to start my business. What I found is, because of my inexperience, is that in the first year of speaking, I paid $110 per person for people to come to my seminars and listen to me. In other words, I didn't get anything back. I paid out of pocket. It cost me $110 to acquire a person who would listen. Of course, over the years that changed, but in your business you have to ask yourself, how much are you willing to pay for a customer in terms of advertising, sales commissions, marketing costs, and so on? How much are you willing to pay per product or service that you sell? And then you ask yourself, how much is it costing today to acquire a customer? And could you lower that cost of customer acquisition? Could you lower that cost of acquisition of each sale? It's a critical cost you have to calculate. Another cost is the cost of packaging, the cost of shipping, the cost of distribution, the cost of the people who put it together, the cost of mail and postage and UPS and FedEx and everything else. What does it cost to get your product or service to the customer? Do you know that a single letter that you write to a customer costs anywhere from $25 to $75? By the time you have taken your time to write the letter, by the time the secretary has typed it, by the time it's been put on stationery, put into an envelope, and put into through the franking machine, and then taken to the post office, all labor costs, it's $25 to $75 per letter. It's absolutely phenomenal when you start to look and break down each little cost. You also, if you're selling products especially, you also have to include the costs of what are called shrinkage, waste, loss, and also theft and breakage. It's interesting, many companies, restaurants especially, but many department stores, retail businesses, will actually make profits on the front end and go bankrupt because of the amount of theft that takes place on the back end. So what you have to do is say, what are the lost costs? How much of our product or service disappears? We used to do seminars with a large organization, and we would send them 5,000 units, and they would come back to us and they would give us an accounting less shrinkage of 300 units. We call them up and we say, what's shrinkage? Well, this is what we include into our costs. It's just products that somehow disappeared. Well, we found out later that they were giving the products away. They were actually selling them and not accounting for them. So we eliminated the shrinkage. We said zero shrinkage. They said, no, 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 we include shrinkage in all of our businesses. I said, you don't include shrinkage with our stuff. So ask yourself, how much is being wasted? How much is being lost? How much is being thrown away? But especially theft and breakage. Sometimes a product that is broken costs you an enormous amount of money and wipes out the profit from 5 other products that you sell. But that is a cost of business as well, and it's usually expressed as a percentage of total sales. Now, another cost is interest costs. If you are borrowing money on your line of credit, you have to pay interest every month, and what you do is you have to allocate your interest costs against the products and services that you sell. So let's say you pay $1,000 a month in interest and you sell 1,000 units of your product. What you do is you allocate $1 per unit in interest costs. Let's say 80% of your sales come from one product area and 20% comes from the other. Then you allocate 80% or $800 to that area as an interest cost of doing business. Okay? It's very important that you be both accurate and honest. Another cost that you have to consider is bad debts. Now, bad debts run differently in different industries. Sometimes they're 3%, sometimes they're 5 or 10%. If you have high markup products, then you can absorb bad debts more than if you have low markup products. But bad debts can cost you an enormous amount of money, and some companies actually go broke because they don't get paid substantial amounts. This is why you have to be very, very tight with regard to credit. You have to follow up when people don't pay. You have to demand payment in advance, cash. You have to make sure credit cards clear, because bad debts drain away all of your profits. You can make it on the top line and actually lose money because of bad debts and because of shrinkage. And then finally, you have to include all other costs that must be paid. Well, there are several companies now that do this type of cost analysis. And you know what they do is they'll go into a company and they'll take a particular product and they'll say, all right, let us work out 100% of the costs attributable to this product relative to the amount you sell it for and profit. Then they'll take every single product and they will do an analysis, and they'll find out that in your business, in any business, that there will be one product that yields the highest profit of any other product after all of the direct and indirect costs have been calculated. Then there is a number 2 product and a number 3 product and a number 4, and in every single business you can order every product or service in order determined by how much they actually earn the company. Whenever they do an analysis like this, the owners of the companies are shocked. And you know why? It's because sometimes the product that they're selling that seems to be doing so well, they're actually losing money on every one. And sometimes the product they weren't paying attention to, because it's easy to sell, has high level of customer satisfaction, highly profitable, low returns, sometimes the product they're not paying attention to is the mainstay of the company. So here's the question to you. What is the exact profit, down to the penny, that you earn for every single product or service that you sell? And in order, which is number 1, which is number 2, which is number 3, and so on. Now, another thing that you have to do in business is you have to include the costs of your own personal labor. There's 2 ways that you can do this. The simplest way is to ask yourself, if you were working for another company, how much would that company pay you per month? What was your last job? How much are you worth in the marketplace? Let's say that you were $60,000 a year in the marketplace. That means that your labor costs your company $5,000 a month, because that's how much of your labor you are investing in the company each month. Ask yourself, with regard to every product or service, how many hours do you personally invest in a product or service? One of the things that I've done with my entrepreneurial clients is I've pointed out that there are some activities in their business that are of such low value, no value, that they don't warrant very much personal time at all. And there's some areas in their business that have such high potential that they warrant almost all of your time. So you have to keep asking, is this a good use of my time? Is this the most valuable use of my time? Is this the best place that I can invest my valuable, scarce time in terms of the amount that it costs to hire me? For example, if you earn $60,000 a year, it means that you earn about $30 an hour. All right? So you have to ask yourself every hour, is what I'm doing right now paying $30 an hour? And what else could I be doing with my time that has a higher potential payoff? You should ask yourself, what is the amount of your salary or compensation? How much do you take out of the company, and allocate that against all your activities? Ask about the value of the labor of your family members. Does your wife work with the company, or your husband? Do your kids work in the company? Put a number on their contribution and attribute it to your costs, even though you may not be paying it out directly. And finally ask, how much could you earn if you worked for another company? Because here's a discovery. 86% of entrepreneurs, because they're not knowledgeable in sales, marketing, and cost controls, 86% of entrepreneurs could actually earn more money working for someone else than running their own business. And so ask yourself, how much could you earn working for another company rather than running your own business? And how can you start to make every minute count? Well, ideally, you should reduce your fixed costs and increase your variable costs. The lower your fixed costs, the lower is your break-even point. So think about your offices and equipment. It's often better to lease or to rent offices and equipment. Many people start in business, they think about buying their own premises. No. The smartest and biggest companies in the world rent and they lease equipment because they say, wait a minute, I'm not in the real estate business, I'm in a different business. If you're not in the real estate business, it's much better to lease and have the flexibility of working out your lease and leaving rather than to own and have no flexibility at all. Sometimes it's better to lease or to rent computer equipment or office equipment or trucks or cars or anything else. Try to keep your fixed costs down by avoiding buying this stuff in the first place. With regard to labor costs, you can lower your labor costs by hiring people to work part-time. There's a rule that says you should only hire people to work who are needed 100% of the time. You should never have people on the payroll in case things pick up. So the best companies that I know have people who are fixed full-time, who are working 100% of the time, and then they have part-timers and temps that come in and work when the workload goes up. A critical thing now that many companies are doing is outsourcing. They hire other companies who specialize to perform particular services. For example, in terms of payroll, there are companies like Paychex and ADP that will come and do 100% of your payroll for you. All they require is a single check once a month, and you can close your entire payroll department. These companies specialize so well in payroll that they actually do a better job at a lower cost than it would cost you for rent, utilities, people, mail, staff, computers, and so on. Look to outsource everything that you can that is not part of your core business. One of the great techniques for running a business efficiently and profitably. Remember, the lower your fixed costs, the higher can be your profitability. The lower your locked-in costs, the more profits you can make when business gets going good. Now, there's several ways that you can calculate the efficiency with which you run your business. And these are tools that you can use for the rest of your career. The first is called return on investment. The return on investment, ROI, is the amount you earn as a percentage of the total monies invested in your business. Now, total monies means the amount you've invested, your friends have invested, but also the amount of money that you've borrowed, either directly or indirectly through lines of credit. What's your percentage of return? The second figure that you can use, which is even better, is called return on equity. The return on equity is the amount that you earn from the amount of cash that you or your friends have personally invested in the business. This is your out-of-pocket. What percentage are you returning or earning on the amount that you have invested? Another critical figure you can use is called return on sales. Now, return on sales is sometimes called your sales margin, but it's the amount of gross profit and net profit that you earn from each item that you sell. For example, if let's say you sell an item for $1,000 and it costs you $900 to buy the item, package it, sell it, pay for staff and everything else, it means that you earn $100 on return on sales from each item. One of your goals is to increase your return on sales, to earn more per item by lowering the cost or by increasing the price or both. But this is a critical figure. What are your returns on sales? Some companies, very successful high-tech companies, have 50% return on sales. Grocery stores have 3% return on sales. And it's a small change in your return on sales can dramatically change your results. The final number is called net profit. That's the amount that you have left after deducting 100% of all the costs listed above. What you do is you calculate everything, and every single month you look, what is your net profit, what is your net loss? Keep focused. You should be knowing every single month, sometimes every week. Major companies will know every year, within 7 days of the end of the year, exactly how much they've earned worldwide because of their sophisticated and complete bookkeeping and accounting systems. You have to determine your profitability in each of your products and services. Conduct a complete cost analysis of each product. Include a percentage of all fixed costs that are attributable to that product or service. Include the exact amount of variable and semi-variable costs per item. You then deduct the cost of your personal labor at your hourly rate, plus an allowance for all losses and write-offs. Determine exactly how much it costs and how much you earn from the sale of every product and service. And finally, remember that everything is based on attention. You must continually study every cost and look for ways to reduce them. This is a critical part of business success. Many companies are successful on the top line because they sell lots of their products and services, and they go broke because of poor cost control on the bottom line. Don't let that happen to you. My audience is, I say, can anybody here drive a car? And of course everybody raises their hand. Ride a bicycle? They raise their hand. Type with a keyboard, use a cell phone? They raise their hand. I say that if you can learn to do these things, which are quite complicated when you start off, you can learn any business skill. One of the things that always amazes entrepreneurs when I talk to them all over the world is they're amazed at how many things that you have to learn, how complex it is, almost like a car with hundreds and thousands of moving parts. But once you get them all working together, they start to really generate profits. If you can drive a car, you can learn any business skill. Now, the interesting thing is that business is an art as well as a science. There's very specific regulations and reasons for success or failure, which we'll talk about, but there's also artistic parts. There's parts that have to do with emotions and feelings and intuitions. It's a matter of practical experience, judgment, foresight, and a good deal of luck, rightly understood. Fortunately, all business skills are learnable. You can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal you can set for yourself. Now, once you've learned a business skill, you can use it over and over again. And each time you use it, you get better at it. And each time you get better at it, it takes you less time to get greater and better results. This is the reason for business success. This is the reason for success in any field. First of all, you start off and you don't know any of these things. Then you learn them through trial and error and study and experience. You eventually master them. You do more and more things right. You eventually become more and more effective in business. You make an enormous amount of money. You achieve financial independence, and you retire wealthy. And if hundreds of thousands and millions of people have done this over the years, then so can you. Because nobody's better than you. Nobody's smarter than you. Remember that. Nobody's better than you. Nobody's smarter than you. If hundreds of thousands of millions of people can start and build successful businesses, so can you if you just learn how. Now, there's three major reasons why businesses fail. They're pretty simple: lack of money, lack of knowledge, lack of support. Now, what does this mean? Lack of money means they don't have enough money when they start off, and they can't generate enough money from sales, and they can't borrow the money to survive until they succeed. The ability to generate the necessary funds from a variety of sources is a key skill. If you don't have it, you don't deserve to survive. Lack of knowledge. People don't have the knowledge, the experience, or the skills necessary, and the great tragedy is that many business people make no effort to learn these skills. Interesting. They did a study of business success. They find that 80% of new businesses fail within the first 2 to 4 years. But then they went back and they looked at businesses started by people with business experience, having worked for another company, studied, learned, listened, and so on. They found that businesses started by people with business success succeeded 90% or more of the time. Businesses started by people with no knowledge, who were just trying to make it up as they went along, fail 90% of the time and set the person back years in terms of financial and personal development. The wonderful thing is, all the knowledge you need is available to you, as this program demonstrates. The third problem in business, the causes for business failure, is lack of support. Lack of support means they can't get the support of their customers, their suppliers, their bankers, or anybody else. Well, with the basics of business success that we'll talk about now, you will gain the knowledge necessary to acquire the support and money you need for your business. It's a very simple thing to do. Just come along with me. Now, the basics of business success. There are 7 areas of activity that are responsible for business success. You should give yourself a grade of 1 to 10 in each area and see how well you're doing. Number 1 is marketing. In marketing, it means you have the right product, the right customer at the right time, and you sell it vigorously and professionally and consistently. 80% of your problems in business will start and will come from the marketing and sales department. The second part of business that's important is finance. It's the ability to acquire the money you need, to generate the cash and the revenues, to borrow the money, to finance, to hypothecate, to mortgage. Money is a critical thing, and money is an area that you can learn in. It's a tool that you can learn to use. The third area that's important for business is production. Production means the ability to produce high-quality products and services consistently over time. And interesting enough, the word consistently is the key. Over and over again, you produce high-quality products, so people come to depend upon you and know that if they buy from you, they will get what they pay for. The next part of business is distribution, which is the ability to get your product or service to the market on time, efficiently, effectively, and predictably. Many companies run into real difficulties with distribution because they don't think through the critical elements in advance. The next part of business success is research and development. In a fast changing world, your ability to continually innovate and produce new products and services is essential. You have no chance unless you're constantly upgrading your current products and services and introducing new ones to replace the ones that are becoming obsolete. Now, the sixth part is regulation. In our society, which is highly regulated, your ability to deal with the requirements of governments, to pay your taxes, to comply with regulation, to comply with restrictions, to understand what they are, is an absolutely essential skill of management. Sometimes a company can be put out of business simply because they were unaware or did not make themselves aware of a particular legal requirement. Very important you stay on top of what government expects from you. And finally, number 7 is your ability to find the people you need. People are the critical factor. The ability to find them and organize them, to motivate them, manage them, to communicate with them to get the job done is essential to your success. And if you're having difficulties, it's usually in one of those 7 areas. Well, here's a rule that you've heard. Knowledge is power. But it's not just knowledge in the library, or librarians would be rich and smart. It's specialized knowledge that you can apply to get results that people will pay you for. Specialized knowledge increases the likelihood of your success. That's why we say control of vital information is a form of power. Good business people are constantly gathering new information about their business and their competition so that they have an inside edge over people who don't know these things. So one of your jobs is to aim at acquiring superior knowledge in your niche. You'll find the very most successful business people in every area are the ones who know the most about that specific area because they're constantly learning, growing, studying, reading, attending conferences in their particular business niche. Well, there's a series of reasons for business failure based on analysis of thousands of companies that have gone bankrupt over the years. What I want you to do is just give yourself a grade on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, on how these might apply to your business. We'll touch on them in this lesson, and then we'll go on to into them in greater depth later on. First reason for business failure is lack of direction, which means that the business owner fails to establish clear written goals with plans to accomplish them, and the business owner fails to develop a complete business plan before beginning. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well are you doing on direction? The second one is impatience, is attempting to accomplish too much too soon, expecting to sell your products quickly, expecting to get out of the gate and become profitable in a short time. Patience is one of the most important of all virtues of successful business people. The third is greed. Many companies and businesses go broke because the owners attempt to charge too much and make too much money, usually from selling a poor product without too much preparation. People who are greedy in business are trying to get money that they do not deserve and which they have not earned. All long-term success in business is patient success. It's where people start the business slowly and grow it steadily and eventually make good, solid profits by delivering goods and services consistently over the years. So greed can be a real killer in business. Another killer is action without thinking. Action without thinking leads to costly mistakes. One of the reasons why we encourage you to do business plans and budgets and break-even analyses and market studies is because it gives you the thinking tools necessary to do the right things, to make the right decisions, to hold yourself back from making mistakes that can set you back weeks and months and even years. Another major reason for business failure is poor cost control. That means spending too much money, especially at the beginning. Spending too much cash. Remember, cash is king, and so it's so important that you conserve cash. Instead of buying expensive offices and furniture and cars and things like that, rent, lease, borrow, but especially control the costs at every single part of your business. Another reason for business failure, scale of 1 to 10, is a poor quality of product, which means it's difficult to sell and it's difficult to get repeat business. Now, what do we mean by a poor quality of product? It all has to do with comparison with your competitors. Your product has to be equal to or better than your competitors in order for you to be in the business. If you don't have competitive advantage, don't compete. Get out of the business and get into something where you can bring an excellent product to the market consistently. Another major reason for business failure is insufficient working capital. The entrepreneur runs out of money before he starts to make enough money to cover his costs. Insufficient working capital comes from poor budgeting or no budgeting. The person just makes it up as they go along, and it's like running off of pavement and hitting a dirt road. Once you reach that point, there's no going back. I work with companies all the time where people invest everything they've saved and borrowed for years into a business, but because they didn't plan it properly, they lost it all. And they were set back years of hard work and savings. Don't let that happen to you. Another major problem is bad or non-existent budgeting. This is the failure to develop written budgets before you begin operations, to think through what everything is going to cost rather than figuring it out as you go along, checking and double-checking what things will cost before you begin making commitments. It's absolutely amazing how many people will make commitments and then find out later that it's going to cost substantially more than they had imagined or budgeted for, and they simply don't have the cash. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good is your budgeting process? The next reason for business failure is inadequate financial records, poor or no bookkeeping or accounting system. Many businesses start off and the accounting is just a bunch of receipts. I remember one businessman, he would put his payables in one drawer and his receivables in the other. And once a month he'd take them out and look at them. And he would call people who owed him money, and he would make out checks to the people that he owed money to, and he had no system. And eventually, he went broke. The good news is, by the way, is bookkeeping and accounting systems are now available by computer, and they're world-class, and they're very simple. They're for small or medium-sized businesses, and you can get up and on them in a few hours, and then you can just keep plugging in the numbers, and they'll print you financial statements every month. So there's no reason to have poor financial records. Here's a big killer. The next one is loss of momentum in the sales department. In other words, sales begin to slow down and eventually stop. I worked with a company that was going through $350,000 a month, and I asked them in investor capital, I said, what's your sales department? Well, they had one person selling. You know, they meant to get more salespeople, but they were so busy trying to raise money and trying to do internal administration, they only had one salesperson working. And this salesperson was working like a horse, but even his sales could not generate enough to keep the business going. So the business collapsed, and all the money, millions of dollars, were lost. So what's the momentum like in your sales department? Your sales should be steady, consistent, predictable, and growing every single month. 80 or 90% of all your attention should be on sales, sales, sales. And if it's not, you've got to get it off the other things and get it back onto sales. Another major reason is failure to anticipate market trends accurately. In other words, the market changes, and a product or service that was selling well stops selling, or a better product or service comes into the market at a lower price. I was working for a business once as a consultant, and they said, you've got to help us compete against Japanese. I said, well, what's your competitive advantage? And I said, well, they said, we don't have one. I said, well, what's the problem? Well, the Japanese sell a superior product at half our price. I said, well, how can you succeed in that situation? They said, well, you're supposed to tell us that. I said, well, it's not possible. The market changed dramatically. The Japanese came in with a superior product with more features and benefits, and they were selling an old product that hadn't been upgraded, in this case, for 50 years. And of course, in a short period of time, they were out of business. Now, another major reason for business failure is lack of managerial ability or experience, lack of skills. The person doesn't know what they're doing. They don't know how to market. They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to advertise. They don't know how to hire people or delegate or supervise. They don't know how to report or negotiate. But the good news is all of these skills are learnable. You can get the skills you need. You can learn them yourself, or you can hire people on a full or part-time basis who already have these skills. But lack of managerial experience or competence is a key killer of businesses large and small, including Fortune 500 businesses. Another major reason for business failure is indecisiveness. The company runs into problems, or even it has opportunities, but the key people can't make a decision for fear of making a mistake, or even worse, for fear of hurting somebody's feelings. Do you know a major reason for business failure, small business failure, is that the decision maker, the owner, will not fire an incompetent person because they don't want to hurt their feelings. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a relative. So they leave the incompetent person in place, usually in sales and marketing, until the business goes broke and everybody loses their job. Indecisiveness is a major problem in business. The second to the last is bad human relations. We find that this is a real killer. The person owning the business or in charge has personality problems and conflict with other people. They're constantly fighting. There's politics. There's personality clashes. There's arguments. People are abrasive. In fact, recently, one of the biggest companies in America, they had to fire the president because the president was in the habit of shouting at people in every meeting and cursing these people and running them down in front of others. Finally, the board stepped in and fired a person who had spent all his life getting to the presidency of a Fortune 500 company, was finished. Nobody else will ever touch him again because he just couldn't get along well with others. And the final problem is diffusion of effort, which is trying to do too many things and doing nothing well. One of the things we teach our clients is that when you run into business difficulties, cash flow is down, sales are down, pull back to your most important and best-selling products and services and concentrate all of your efforts on selling the products and services that your customers like most, and just get out of everything else until your situation turns around. Well, there are reasons for business success. You've heard the reasons for business failure. Here's the reasons for business success, and often they're the flip side of the coin. Give yourself a score of 1 to 10 on how well these apply to you. First of all, the product or service is well suited to the market. People like it, they buy it again, and they recommend it to their friends. That is the #1 reason for business success. Scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? Number 2 is there's a complete business plan developed before starting. The owners of the business have thought through, with help or by themselves, every single part of the business so that when they begin, they know exactly what they're doing, what things cost, what goals they have to achieve, and so on. How are you doing in terms of business planning? Scale of 1 to 10. The third major reason for success is a complete market analysis is conducted in advance. The people in the business know exactly who they're competing against and how much they charge. They know where and how they are better and how they compare with their competitors. They know where the customers are and who the best customers are for them. They've thought it through in advance, and they know how to focus their efforts on the very best customers who can buy the soonest and pay the most. Scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? The fourth reason for business success is there's a complete development of advertising, promotional, and sales programs in advance of starting business. In other words, the company thinks through and tests advertisements, methods of promotion, brochures, internet, radio, television, and also develops a sales program with specific salespeople who are trained thoroughly in order to make the sales upon which the company depends. How good is your sales, marketing, advertising department? How well thought out and organized are you? What kind of sales systems do you have in place, and are they working? Scale of 1 to 10. The next is tight financial controls. Really good businesses are very careful with money. They have good budgeting and accurate bookkeeping, as they know every week and every month In my business, I know every day the status of my business. I know my sales in every single department. I know my profitability in every department. I know exactly how much money we have in the bank, exactly how much money we owe and when we owe it, exactly how much money we have coming in. I know exactly how much we owe to the bank and our lines of credit. I know that every single day. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing in that area? Because it's really important. It's like a doctor calling in on a patient in critical care. Every day the doctor checks to make sure the patient is healthy. You should be checking every day in your business as well. Now the next is there's a high degree of competence and integrity on the part of the key players. The key people are good at what they do, and they're honest, and they're known for their honesty. That's very important. The number one reason that people will invest in your business, buy from you, give you credit, is because of the character of your key people, the team of people who's expected to get the results. Another critical factor is good internal efficiency. There's good time management, clear job descriptions. Everybody works well like a smoothly oiled machine, like a Swiss watch. Everybody is highly productive and gets a lot done and works well together, because each person has been carefully hired based on skills that complement and work with each other person, and everybody works together like a team to get the job done. Another major reason for business success is good communications amongst everybody. You can always tell a good company by the level of laughter in that company. Good companies have a great sense of humor. Everybody laughs, tells jokes, tells stories, gets along well with other people, and as a result, there's good communications and high levels of productivity and performance. Another key point, if we go back to major reason for business failure, the major reason for business success is strong momentum in the sales department. There's a major emphasis throughout the company on marketing and selling the product or service. Everybody thinks about marketing and selling all the time. The phones are ringing, the orders are coming in, the orders are going out, the cash register is ringing. That is a mark of a successful company. And it is the area where companies start to have problems first of all. When the sales start to slow down, problems begin everywhere else. Well, the second to the last is number 9, is concern for the customer is a top priority at all times. Is people think about the customer, they service the customer, they get back to the customer, they're concerned for the customer, they discuss the customer. You can always tell a successful company by the way people talk about their customers. In a good company, people talk about their customers with great respect. In a poor company, people talk about their customers in a negative way. They're always complaining. They're always demanding this. They're never satisfied with that. They're always sending back broken products. But in good companies, they're obsessed with customer service. They know that the key to the future of the company is to get your customers to buy again, and to bring their friends. And the final reason for business success is high levels of determination, persistence, and patience on the part of the business owner. The business owner is calm, confident, courageous, and absolutely determined to make the business a success, and everybody knows it inside and outside of the company. In the work that's been done in the book Good to Great, they found that all the best companies had what they called Category 5 leaders. And a Category 5 leader was defined as a low-key person, easygoing, not too loud, but absolutely committed to the success of the business, and everybody knew it and everybody felt it. Well, the good news is that business success is attainable if you avoid the reasons for business failure and continually focus on improving in the areas that are responsible for business success. You can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any business goal you can set for yourself. Businesses start off by an entrepreneur making up things as he goes along. In most businesses, most of the way to do the business is in the mind of the entrepreneur. If the entrepreneur is not there, everything has to stop. And then businesses are run by the seat of their pants. But at a certain stage, you must decide exactly what is required in each area of your business and then write it down in a logical order so that someone else can do it. You can free yourself from the need to be involved in countless activities by creating a system for others to follow. It's also a tremendous discipline for you to organize on paper the various steps of the process. So look at your business as though you were an outside consultant trying to understand or explain the business to someone else. Even better, look at your business as though it were a franchise prototype. Imagine that you want to reproduce this business and sell it all over the world. Imagine you want to create 100 or 1,000 businesses like yours, so you have to systematize every single part of the business, like a McDonald's franchise where everything right down to the smallest French fry is organized, systematized, automatic, so that an average person with a limited education can do it correctly every single time. That's your goal for your business. Now, your job is to create a blueprint for your business so that it can be replicated many times over by other people and whether or not you're there. Now, here's one of the great rules, is a good business system is one that may have been developed by geniuses, but it can now be followed by morons. In other words, an average person should be able to run most of the functions of your business because they're all systematized. And that's what we'll talk about in this lesson. Now, the most important question in business is this, and it's a combination question that summarizes everything. It's exactly what is to be sold, and to whom is it to be sold, and by whom is it to be sold, and how is it to be sold, and at what price and terms is it to be sold, and how is your product going to be produced, paid for, delivered, and serviced? That is the great question. And so let's take each of those sub-questions in order. First question, exactly what is to be sold? To start off, to systematize your business, you list every product or service that you sell. And second of all, you determine the sales volume you expect from each product. You determine the exact cost of offering each product. Determine the cost of the product or service itself. Determine the cost of marketing and sales per unit. Determine the cost of administration and overhead per unit. Then you have to determine the cost of labor, including yours per unit of each product or service you sell. Determine the cost of defects and returns and losses on sales. Determine the exact profit per unit after all of the above. You should know to the penny how much you make after everything at the end of the day from every product or service. Then make a list of every step necessary to create or procure the product for sale and delivery. Write out this list as a series of instructions, like a recipe, so that someone else can do it. You make this the first section of your operations manual. It should be so clear that if you were away for a month, other people could follow those instructions and produce and acquire and make your product or service available. The second question is, to whom is it to be sold? This is the great question in marketing research. This is a description of your ideal customer. So, what is the demographic profile of your ideal customer? That's age, education, income, background, position, profession, location, and so on. What is the psychographic profile of your ideal customer? Now, the psychographic profile deals with the wants, the needs, the desires, the fears, the tendencies, the hopes, the wishes, the psychology of your ideal customer. What is it in his or her mind that makes him or her ideal for what you sell? Then, once you have those, you ask, what are the benefits that your customer gets from your product? Remember this, customers don't buy products or services, they buy benefits, they buy results, they buy solutions to their problems. So what does your product do to change or improve the life or the work of your customer specifically? Now, what your customer wants, needs, expects, and demands are the key organizing principles of all of your marketing. And you and everyone else should know why customers and why ideal customers would buy from you rather than from someone else. Once you have this customer profile, which you continue to tweak as time passes, you explain it to everyone so that everyone in your business knows exactly who your customers are. They can identify them and they know exactly their hopes, desires, fears, backgrounds, age, education, income, and so on. Now, the next question is, by whom is it to be sold? And this is really important. The people who meet and talk to your customers are the ones who sell the product. So, who exactly is responsible for selling? It's an amazing thing that in companies, they start off and they have what is called role underlap, where you have this job description and this job description, but in the middle, like the space between two stools, critical functions are not assigned to a particular person. So you have to be very clear who exactly is responsible for selling and making the sale. The second question of this is, what exactly do they say to the customer? And this is very important because most salespeople make up what they say on a day-to-day, customer-to-customer basis. Most people say whatever falls out of their mouth, but not successful companies. What exactly do your salespeople say to the customer when he or she phones? Good companies have a script that they follow word for word. Hello, this is Susan. How are you today? How can I help you? In other words, it's word for word. And what do people say when someone inquires about what you sell? They come in to your place of business, they talk to your salespeople, they come to your website. What words do you use? Especially, what does your salesperson say when he calls on them outside of the office? What is the sales script, methodology, and process that salespeople use when they get face-to-face with a prospective customer? This is not something you can leave to chance. Now, here's an interesting discovery. You can triple your sales by systematizing your sales process. In other words, a systematized sales process yields 3 times the number of confirmed sales as a random process that people just make up each time they meet a customer. Your sales methodology to ensure maximum conversion rates is the core of your business. What you need to do is write it out word for word. You identify the areas of weakness in your sales methodology. You can continually edit it and improve the sales process. So the question is, what is your sales process? What is your step-by-step sales process? Each person who sells or deals with customers must be trained in what to do and say with customers. Now, here's a rule. You cannot expect a person to make a sale that he or she has not been trained for. I work and have worked with thousands of companies over the years, and I'm always astonished when I deal with a company that doesn't train their people. They give them what is called product training. They say, here's the products, and here's the ingredients, and here's the brochures, and so on, but they don't train them in the methodology and process of greeting customers, building relationships, identifying needs, presenting the product so it matches the needs, answering objections, and closing the sale. And then they're surprised that their salespeople don't make many sales. You can't expect people to do anything in your business unless you have trained them for it and then watch them demonstrate that they are competent and proficient in doing it. Very important. Well, what are the best? The best and most profitable companies have the best trained salespeople. The Fortune 500 companies that I work with will hire people out of top universities with top grades. They will train them for 6, 12, 18 months, and they'll put them into the field, and these people sell billions of dollars of product. Little companies with undertrained or non-trained salespeople do not have a chance against the professionals. Remember this, in your business, nothing happens until someone sells something to somebody. Nothing happens. Everything in your business is aimed at that point of making the sale. So here's the next question. How is it to be sold? And this describes the entire process of marketing, advertising, attracting customers, and finally, making the sale. You need a complete marketing plan for your business. You need to think it through in advance. Exactly what is the process of what we call customer acquisition? How do you acquire customers? How do you advertise to them, promote to them? How do you bring them into your sphere? What is the steps that you use? And you start by determining your core marketing message. Your core marketing message revolves around your unique selling proposition. Your unique proposition is the special reason why someone should buy from you rather than from anyone else. So, what is it about your product or service that makes it different, unique, special, superior, excellent in some way that no other company can offer? Whatever it is, that becomes the axle around which all of your marketing revolves. That becomes the core message, which is repeated in every single piece of advertising or promotion. Well, the next thing you do is you determine the best way to reach your prospective customer. Remember the customer that we have identified who is the ideal customer. Where is this customer? How do you reach them? What do they read? What are they influenced by? And so on. Determine how you will advertise. Determine where you will advertise. And determine how much you will spend. Now, we've talked about this before, but in determining how much you will spend to advertise, you always have to ask, what is my cost of customer acquisition? How much am I willing to pay to acquire a customer? Remember, you have two people that you acquire in advertising. First is a lead. This is a person who is interested and will respond to your advertising. The second is the person who will buy, which will be a much smaller percentage of the people who initially respond. How much are you willing to spend to acquire customers? And what we do with our clients is we say this: if you could take a certain amount of money and go out in the street and give a certain number of dollars to a person to get them to come and buy from you, how much would you be willing to pay to get them to buy? Some companies will pay 50 cents on the dollar of sale. Some companies will pay 10 cents. Some companies will pay 5 cents. But how much are you willing to pay? And that determines how much you will spend in advertising. Now, once you start to advertise, you set standards to measure the effectiveness of your marketing efforts, especially advertising. In other words, you say we're going to spend this amount of money to acquire this amount of leads, which will translate into this number of customers, which will translate into this level of sales, which will translate into this level of profitability. And you set those standards before you advertise in the first place. Then you continually compare, is my advertising actually delivering the bottom line results that I projected when I began? Remember, 50% of all advertising is wasted because it's like water that splashes and doesn't get onto the customers, because it's going in the wrong direction to the wrong customers with the wrong message. Once you have all these done, you write all these things down on paper in advance and you analyze them carefully. You require a complete sales process with pre-planned steps and scripts for each product and each step of the process. You need contracts and order forms and price lists and brochures and internet set design and everything else necessary to take the order once the sale has been made. And all those things have to be done in advance before you talk to your first customer. If you're already selling and you haven't done them, then you have to pull back quickly and design the entire sales process, including every single piece of paper that you need to make the sale. In one of my businesses, after we'd been operating for several years, I found that there was no standard order form. That when people phoned up and ordered, it was written down on a piece of paper, and then it was translated into another piece of paper, and then it was made into an order, and it was absolute confusion. So I said, why don't we have a standard order form? Well, you know, we've gotten used to using this old system, but once the order form has been standardized, you can take hundreds of orders and make hundreds of sales with absolute maximum efficiency. And this is very important for you to do. Now, the next question is, at what price and terms are you going to sell your product? How much are you going to charge? How are you going to charge it? And how are you going to require payment? This is very important. So determine your individual retail prices. Determine any discount or combination or special prices or for special reasons that you're willing to offer, and then decide upon your wholesale prices and large volume purchases so they're all written down. They're not made up when somebody calls and says, what if I buy 10? You've got a specific written standard that anyone can follow. Determine how much you are willing to pay or to discount to acquire a customer. Some companies will discount the product a lot rather than lose the customer altogether. So decide in advance so that this is not a discretionary thing that people make up when the question comes up. Another thing you need to do is estimate the lifetime value of each customer. If you acquire a customer, how much is he or she likely to spend with you in the future? And that's a major determinant of how much you can spend to get that customer in the first place. Now, this is a very sensitive issue. It's a very sensitive and complex area, so continue to revisit and be willing to reconsider your prices, especially in the face of declining sales. Sometimes because of competition, changes in the marketplace, changes in technology, you have to go back and revise your prices in a variety of different ways. And you have to do this all the time. Now, the next question in standardizing your business processes is, how is the product going to be produced? List every step from the beginning of the production process to the finished product. Explain it in such detail that someone else could do it with limited experience and ability. If you purchase products for resale, write out a step-by-step description of the process of acquisition and payment. In other words, where do you buy them from? Who do you talk to? What's the process of placing the order? What's the process of taking delivery? What's the process of payment? And so on. Now, here's an exercise. Imagine leaving for a month and hiring a temp to produce or acquire your products or services. If you were leaving for a month, You have to write out the instructions so that they are so simple and easily understood that an average person could do it competently in your absence. And by forcing yourself to do this, you become much more efficient in this part of your business. Now the next question is, how is the product going to be delivered? Chart out every step of the delivery process. From the time the customer orders, what is the process by which they receive delivery of the product? Determine how long each step will take. Determine how much each step will cost. Identify the possible problem areas and take steps to guard against problems, and then document the entire process so that a child could do it. The final question is, how is the product to be serviced, repaired, or replaced? There will always be problems with products or services. People will send them back, will not like them, they will break, they'll need to be repaired, they'll need to be serviced, and so on. So set up a process to provide for breakage, returns, and dissatisfied customers. Set up a system so that everyone knows how to deal with it automatically when it comes up. Set up policies and procedures for each step. The greatest danger is when people make up how they're going to deal with a problem each time it comes up, rather than having a specific set of policies and procedures. Set up a return policy and a procedure. Let me give you an example. One of the things that we do with our products and services is we guarantee them for a year. We say if you're not happy, you can send them back in a year. You have 12 months to decide. Well, sometimes a product will come back 14 or 15 months after we've sold it. And we say, well, what do we do with this? The answer is we return it to the client and we say, our return policy is very simple. You return it to us, you pay the postage, and we'll credit you back 100% of the cost within 12 months. Not 14 or 15 months, or sometimes, well, we get an awful lot of returns come back in December. People are trying to free up money for Christmas presents, and so they'll send stuff that they don't have any receipts for, and they'll send it in, and the stuff may have been sold years before. So set up a return policy and then stick to your return policy. And finally, once you have all this, document everything in your operations manual. Your operations manual should have every single step. Whenever you have a problem, by the way, or a breakdown or a blockage in your business, take action to assure it doesn't happen again. In business, you're going to have lots and lots of problems. What you have to do is you have to stop the clock and say, okay, this happened. It was unexpected. We didn't think this would happen. So what are we going to do about it? Now, if you have a recurring problem, like every month you have a problem with payment or payroll or delivery or shipment or with a supplier or something else, this is a sign of bad management. A recurring problem means that you have not put a solution in place, so therefore it just continually occurs. So when you have a problem of any kind, new or recurring, determine first of all exactly what has happened. Ask, what is the problem? What has happened here? And ask, how did it occur? Before you make any attempt to solve it, be clear about what it is and how it happened. Then you ask the question, what is the solution? What can we do to assure that this doesn't happen again? And then you decide, what do we do now? In other words, what step do we take immediately? How can we assure that this problem does not occur again? When you're dealing with problems, by the way, the most powerful words are the words, next time. Whenever you have a problem or a difficulty, you ask the question, what will we do next time? And this keeps everybody focused on the solution. It keeps everybody focused on the future. It keeps everybody focused creatively on what can be done. Now, your operations manual becomes your Bible for running your business. Every new business or business activity takes enormous efforts and expense to learn and standardize. It takes tremendous thought, but once you've created your business process and put in an operations manual, it can be carried out quickly and correctly by ordinary people. What this does is it then frees you more and more to do the creative thinking, planning, and marketing that enables your business to grow and grow and grow. An operations manual is the foundation of every successful business.